how do you see Latin American economies evolving in this shifting trade environment?
Well, it's going to be a tough ride. The geopolitical struggle between the two major powers in the global economy have started to be felt in the region. We saw examples of this in the case of the Panama Canal, right? We saw as well a reference to the connection with China as one of the reasons for the particular treatment of Brazil when it came to the tariffs by Mr. Trump, right? The major issue today comes through trade and how the countries will have to cope and assimilate the impact of that. One important difference is that while the Chinese have come offering things, investment and trade connection and so on the U.S. side has been mostly sticks rather than carrots.
Welcome to another episode of Talk Latin America. This time our guest is Otaviano Canuto. He's a former leading economist at the IMF, the World Bank, and the Inter-American Development Bank. Currently a senior fellow at the Policy Center for New South and non-resident fellow at the Brookings Institution, Canuto shares his deep expertise on economic development, global finance, and the shifting role of Latin America in the international system. With decades of experience shaping policy at the highest levels, he offers valuable insight into the region's current macroeconomic challenges, from inflation and debt to inequality and trade realignment. Canuto also explores now how Latin America leverages the new trade dynamics, South-South cooperation, green development strategies, and sustainable growth. As someone who has helped both emerging and developed economies through financial transitions, his analysis offers clarity on how the region positions itself for rapidly evolving global trade norms. And anyone interested in Latin America's economic future and the policies that could define it should not miss this episode. Otaviano, great having you.
A great pleasure to be here in such a good company.
There's so much to cover. I'd like to start off from how do you see Latin American economies evolving in this shifting trade environment?
Well, it's going to be a tough ride because the fact of the matter is that the region will be subject to a strong pressure coming from the United States towards veering more out of the previously developing relationship with China. The geopolitical struggle between the two major powers in the global economy have started to be felt in the region. That's a challenge that one has to take. In the previous decade or so, the China has come to the region with a huge amount of investments and the trade interconnection. If you look at the countries, all the countries in South America, with one or two exceptions, China has become the major trade client, just to give you an idea. And while, of course, the U.S. Remains, in terms of stocks, the largest foreign investor in Brazil, for instance, the rising share of Chinese investments, particularly in the more recently in infrastructure, in energy, and so on, and now the port, take the port in Peru, the new port that's going to connect with the region with the East Asia and so on. The fact of the matter is that this presence rising presence by China, in a subtle way, in the sense that it is through this process of investment, has started to be tentatively pushed back by the U.S. foreign policy. We saw examples of this in the case of the Panama Canal, right? We saw as well a reference to the connection with China as one of the reasons for the particular treatment of Brazil when it came to the tariffs by Mr. Trump, right? By the way, it's not only Brazil. The tariffs that he has announced on India since yesterday, they also point in that direction. They're a reference to China and so on. And there is more to come. So in this sense, most countries in the region will face the challenge of, let's say, walking on a very thin line, balancing, that's the challenge to be faced by each one of these countries. We're looking forward to see what's going to come for Colombia. Colombia has been, of course, a strong ally where it's so much connected with the U.S. Suffice to think of the joint efforts against the drug and the connection, the deep connection between the existence of even a free trade agreement between Colombia and the United States. But nonetheless, given the orientation, right, the current president, that even alluded to the possibility of joining the BRICS Bank and maybe comprising the BRICS group and so on. It's been symptomatic that the language and the attitude from the U.S., particularly not only Mr. Trump but also Marco Rubio, has started to become a little bit more aggressive with Colombia, and let's see what's going to come in the tariffs now. So, in a nutshell, the major issue today comes through trade and how the countries will have to cope and assimilate the impact of that. One important difference is that while the Chinese have come offering things, investment and trade connection and so on the U.S. side has been mostly sticks rather than carrots. How to navigate that, that's what's going to be the challenge for most countries in the region, well, including Mexico.
Otaviano, you are Brazilian, and I assume that you like music, you like songs, right?
Yes.
So, do you have a song that could translate what we are living right now regarding this trade situation?
Oh, right. Oh, that's a good catch. Well, but I remember, imagine all the people.
But that's easy. That's too easy a song.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Or Construção from Chico Buarque, Yolanda, yeah. One small detail, one of the best moments of my life was when in 2006, I went to the stage at the Bethesda Chevy Chase High School here, playing the guitar because I used to play guitar in the past, but with one son playing drums, one daughter playing bass, and another son playing other guitar. So I was there on the stage with 3 of my kids playing to the school, and that made them popular at the school at the time. And the happiest father on earth.
What was the song that you played at?
We played in rock and roll rhythm, an adaptation of a music from the region where I come from, Asa Branca.
Oh yeah, because you're from Sergipe.
I'm from Sergipe, yes, from the Northeast, yes, yeah.
It's a beautiful song, huh? It's a beautiful one. You were telling before we start recording that you came here to stay just 3-4 years, right?
That's right.
And then, like, more than 20 years?
That's true. It is true. Fact of the matter that we had established life. My wife is French, and I'm Brazilian from the Northeast, but we were living in Campinas, which is a big city, 1 million inhabitants at the time, close to São Paulo, 100 kilometers. And I was a professor at universities, University of Campinas and then São Paulo. And she was a professor at the university as well, the State University of São Paulo. So we had a life. It was fine. I ended up, and one day, yeah, this is a story that is maybe interesting to tell and which serves as a lesson, maybe. I was doing my stuff as a professor, classes, supervising the students, writing academic papers, and so on. And then one day, a newspaper editor from Estado de São Paulo, journal in São Paulo, invited me to write an article. And I did it. I wrote an article. And my wife noticed afterwards how happy I was. She said, she asked her, well, I saw how happy you were with it. I said, yes, because, suddenly I had feedback from such a large number of people, much more than simply the students at my classroom and my colleagues at universities and so on. And then she tells me, look, my father and her father was the editor, the chief editor of economics of Le Monde in France. And then she said, I remember when I was a kid, the problem, the difficulty for journalists in dealing with non-journalists is the reliability of having the pieces on time and so on. Just think of when the journals were printed. You're getting close to 6 p.m. and there is without the article. And so she said, how many do you would like to write per month? I said, well, maybe 2. And then she told me, look, then write them down, send them. Some of the articles will be published, some others not, but they will perceive your reliability. And I did it. And guess what? All the articles were published. And 3-4 months later, the editor calls me and says, I notice how you're sending me regularly. Let's make this a contract. Yeah. And I became a regular contributor to Brazilian leading newspapers, and it was through them that the Minister of Finance, Pedro Malan, and the central bank governor put me in a list of potential people to go to the government, and I ended up going to the government as a deputy minister, and then life changed dramatically. And things also happened here when I had to, okay, but I'm talking too much about this.
No, but you're touching on something that is very interesting because you've been for 20 years looking at Latin America from Washington.
It's true.
You've had roles in policy from international institutions, from national governments. So I'd like to get a picture and a sense of what were the changes throughout this time that you've seen in Latin American economies and their relationships around the world.
Right. And by the way, I was at the World Bank, I was a vice president, but I was not vice president for Latin America and the Caribbean. I dealt with poverty reduction and economic management. But I was also a vice president at the Inter-American Development Bank. Inter-American Development Bank, I dealt with the operations, the portfolio of the IDB with the countries and so on. And then I was at the boards of executive directors of both the IMF and World Bank and so on. Well, a lot has happened in terms of macroeconomic stabilization, macroeconomic
So
policy.
you see the region more stable.
Yes, in terms of macroeconomic policy, with some exceptions, of course. I'm not talking about here, I'm not including Venezuela, Haiti, yes, and I worked with Haiti. The Brazilians have a peculiar affection for Haiti, and unfortunately, the deterioration in recent times. By the way, the current minister, a lady, worked with me at the World Bank and at the IMF. So there are some exceptions, but overall, you think, the quality of macroeconomic management of Colombia has always been good, Peru as well, Chile, And even in Brazil, after some ups and downs, is on a good track in that regard. Brazil has its own specific challenges and so on, particularly the quality of public spending. But it's much better. In Argentina, which is a tough road, but it's because where Argentina had been led to by the previous governments would imply necessarily that the road to be crossed would have to be tough. And one way or another, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And the fact of the matter is that one way or another, Milei has put on track. So I would say that one common feature has been this learning on what not to do. But the challenge remains in the sense that the region is so unequal, and the quality of education is something that has to be faced if we are in the region to build up human capital and higher growth potential and so on. And in the risk is political polarization.
Otaviano, do you have two quick lessons in education that the region could capitalize?
Yes, definitely. Early education matters dramatically, as we have learned. In the first years, that's when a series of skills are developed or not for the kids. And the second thing regarding education as well is the rewards, the incentives that must be incorporated into the pay of professors and so on. And I will give an example. There is a very successful experience with education that comes from Brazil, from the state of Ceará, particularly one that started at one municipality called Sobral. That suddenly, Ceará is northeast, it's not the rich one. And once suddenly, we saw students from that area of the country, Sobral, scoring very high, beating even the students of the rich schools in Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. The elite.
And why was that?
Yes, and so that's what they were. What? But yeah. And then it happened one year, and then the following year, so it was not an accident. And ultimately, what mattered most is the fact that the structure of incentives in the state of Ceará, they align, they reward the good performance of the students.
Like they receive a payment, something like that.
Yes. As measured by tests and so on. So it's something objective. A similar thing, let me tell you as well, in my times, of course, in my time at the World Bank, the World Bank went there to learn, because this is a lesson that can be transmitted to other countries and so on. The World Bank is, besides the money, but what matters most is the fact that it's a bird, a hummingbird, that pollinizes knowledge here and there. And so we went there. And there's some analogies between this happening in Ceará and Vietnam, because Vietnam is also another case of a developing country or a poor area that has scored even better than many advanced economies in the test made by the PISA test. And so with that, in Vietnam, the form of incentive is a bit different, but the acknowledgement that is given to the successful professors as measured by the results of the students. See, what matters is not the glory of the teacher, it is the performance of the students. And so to the extent of possible that some kind of incentives like those can be diffused, that would make a difference in terms of, because then when we have those incentives, the priority by the professors becomes really to make the students
Yeah, and the
learn.
parents push
Yes,
the kids
that's
to
right.
study, right?
Yeah, it's true that other things also happened. For instance, in Sierra, the guys went through the payroll of the teachers to see cases where people shouldn't be there, that had been there, put by someone, the political game and so on. So they cleared off those people. So they only hired, including, the availability of young professionals that could become really teachers, replacing those that were laid off. So I guess the lesson is that there are policies that can be implemented that end up improving the quality of the education. Not easy, okay? I'll tell you a story. A former governor of another state of Brazil, who always had lunch with me whenever he came here to Washington. We developed a good connection. He's dead now. He died in a plane accident. And then one day he asks me about how the World Bank saw the experience of Sierra in Brazil. And then I explained to him, and then he said, I have tried to do the same in my state, but the pushback by the professors' unions was so strong that because this thing of differentiating earnings of professors or of members of any class is not something easily acceptable. But nonetheless, he would do it. But he didn't live. He was a governor of the state of Pernambuco, another state in the Sierra.
I would like to talk a little bit about Haiti, because you oversaw Haiti for a long time, right? Have you been to Haiti?
Yes.
So I have the impression, I don't know, Diego, if you agree with me, but I have the impression that Latin America usually forgets about Haiti, because we see a lot of conflicts.
Share the impression.
Right? We see a lot of conflicts all over the world when when Haiti is struggling with so many things, with hunger, with the gangs there, lack of education. They closed the most important hospital there, so it's chaos everywhere.
Yes.
So when you were there, when was it, and what happened? What can be done to solve, or at least to help Haiti?
That's a huge challenge. And by the way, I would be wrong if I hadn't still on the question that you asked me about the challenge and so on. Of course, criminality, crime, organized crime is a huge issue all over the region, right? So we have to keep this in mind, keep in sight, because the effort to combat it has to be more collective. Otherwise, it becomes a pothole game. Remember whack-a-mole?
You're running behind,
That's right.
but not
Yeah,
head out.
You hit one, and then it comes out here, and you hit there. So it has to be a joint effort by the countries with help from outside. Now, the basic problem of Haiti, like it is the case in other countries, in a bit yet in some Latin American countries, is what we call at the World Bank quality of governance. The institutions, including an important chapter of governance, is corruption. Because whenever you have corruption, the quality of the public spending, the results are lower than otherwise, because part of the resource is simply wasted because of the corruption and so on. Haiti has had a huge problem of this for long in his. It doesn't help as well that the elite tries to live a double life outside Haiti and increasingly now circumscribed to a certain part of Port-au-Prince, right? Which instead of having developed in the past some sort of a strategy with inclusion. Last time I went there, well, the first time I went there, I was at the IDB. And it was prior to that earthquake and so on. So I still went to the old palace. It was, and but walking on the streets, I wasn't brave enough to do it
At that time.
And things got worse, and because of the quality of governance, and then the dismantling of let's say the legal forces and open the space for this kind of subversion of criminality from below. It's a tough call. It will have to have support to dismantle these gangs, while at the same time the redesign of governance of the country in a way that really gets enough support from inside to sustain. See, the issue of governance is so important that I like to refer to a concrete example that I know quite well in Africa, which is the case of the Zimbabwe and Botswana. Zimbabwe and Botswana, they both have diamonds on the subsoil, but while Zimbabwe has degenerated in hyperinflation and so on, Botswana nowadays has levels of school and quality schooling, education and health and public management. They have a debt rating better than Japan. See, the
And
same diamond.
it's an immigration choice for well-trained South Africans.
That's right. So, and that has to do exactly with the quality of the governance, the established. But it goes in the case of Haiti. When I made this first trip to, and I also worked with the Dominican Republic, and I was flying from Dominican Republic's capital to Haiti's capital, and then the pilot called me and asked, "Do you want to see the frontier between Dominican Republic and Haiti?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I didn't see any river on the map." Then he showed me devastation of forests on Haiti and the high standing on Dominican Republic. One could see a clear line. And that I found illustrative of the not the narrative, I would say, Zimbabwe style of management, of governance of Haiti as compared to the one in Dominican Republic. And so the key issue is governance, quality of governance. Because, of course, having a country concretely being existing with through the lens or through the hands of armed gangs is going nowhere.
Of course, yeah.
We'll have to leave it there in this episode of Talk Latin America. Otaviano Canuto, thank you so much. Great having you.
A pleasure. And go Corinthians.
And go Corinthians. I'm going to respect that. We're going to respect that this time. Obviously, for those who didn't pick on it, we're talking about soccer, a sport where my country and Otaviano's country are not quite
And my country
engaged.
too. So it's
Exactly. Two against
two Brazilians and one Argentinian. So.
Before I get mobbed we're going to end this. So this does it for this episode of Talk Latin America. My partner is...
I'm Michelle Marinho. I'm the Latin America editor here in Washington, D.C. at CGTN.
And I'm Diego Laje. I'm an anchor at CGTN. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Thank you.